Here we are again with another episode of Soft Signal. My name is Varun.
Hi, and my name is Aditya, and yeah, it's the end of the Border Gavaskar Trophy, isn't it? A sad
Yes,
end.
yeah. First of all, Happy New Year to all of our hordes of listeners. I hope 2025 is a great year for everyone, and including the Indian cricket team. Um, but yeah, as you might have figured out or not, today we're not going because I said Soft Signal in the intro and not 10 for none. Because today we're going reverting back to our old format, the original format, and not doing any kind of quiz or list or anything like that. We're actually going to just talk about cricket because we are at the end of the series. There are a few things to talk about. Uh, to recap, India have lost the Border Gavaskar Trophy for the first time in 10 years. Australia won the series 3-1. They lost the first test in Perth, but one Adelaide Brisbane test was drawn, and then they won the last two tests in Melbourne and yesterday in Sydney. So we have a few talking points, but wanted to start with just an initial thoughts about this series. Maybe just a quick recap from your perspective. Did you enjoy it? Did you expect this result? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely enjoyed the series. I guess we all expected the result. I mean, to be honest, at the start of the series, I don't think India were the favorites to win this series, especially after what happened in New Zealand and the what happened against New Zealand at home, and the fact that most of the batsmen were out of form. The bowling attack looked a little bit weak without Shami. Um, and so really India was not ever going to be the favorites to win this series, but the fact that they won in Perth gave everybody a lot of hope. But then after that, the trend was Bumrah carrying the entire team, the batting failing continuously, and just all the totals that they put up were just sub power, like completely sub power. So yeah, not a surprise in the end that India came second best in this series actually.
Yeah. If you had told me at the start that it would be 3-1 to Australia, I would have said, yeah, that's fine. That's fair. Uh, Even after the first test, like it's a five-test series, it's a long series. Australia had backups they could call up much more reliably. Their backups like Boland, even Webster, Constas, still to be TBD on if he was good or bad. But yeah, I think they were the stronger side. Both teams didn't bat well enough, but I think Australia bowled better. They had more support. So it was a more cohesive bowling attack. So that did show at in the final score line. Um, yeah, if we'll get into it a bit later, but I think if it was not for Bumrah, it would have been even worse. So anyway, that ends the series. That ends the test cycle for India as well in this World Test Championship cycle. They are not gonna make it to the final this time, which might not be the worst thing because they can't lose it then. But yeah, for the first time ever, they're not making the WTC final as well. So there's like a 6 month break. The next test is only in June 2025. I think that's the one in England. So things can change between then now and then. Ignoring all the media circus, we have a few topics to talk about. So I think the first glaring topic that has obviously been talked about a ton is Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli's form. So just for some perspective, just looking at this series specifically, reading off some stats, but uh, oops, I had the stats up. Do you have the stats up? If you want to just read out the stats, because I just seem to have lost that page. I can pull them up as well.
Yeah, sure. So I have the stats up as well, but yeah, I mean talking about Rohit Sharma and Kohli specifically. So Kohli averaged 23.75 this series, which is obviously super poor for someone like him. And let's not forget that that average is propped up by the fact that he did get 100 and he was also not out.
Yeah,
But apart from that 100, if you remove, he scored a total of 190 runs. But if you remove the 100, that's like 90 runs in the remaining seven outings that he had, or rather, remaining nine outings that he had. So again, overall, quite a poor performance from Kohli. And Rohit Sharma was even worse, wasn't he? Like an average of 6.2, he got just 31 runs in the series. Okay, he played two matches less, but even in the matches that he played, he just looked out of sorts, except for that one innings in Melbourne, in which he looked solid for some time, but then again gave it away through a loose stroke. But I mean, all in all, he just looked out of sorts. Obviously, it didn't help that the only match that India won was when he was not captain. So that also kind of worked against him. But a really poor series from a batting point of view for India's two best batsmen, you could say, apart from this series, of course. But overall, India's two best batsmen, India would have relied lot on them to get first innings runs and third inning runs of second or fourth innings runs or whatever, but it's just not happened for them this series. And yeah, just disappointing. I mean, even the way Kohli kept getting out, like he kept getting out the same way the entire series. Um, it's strange that such a great batsman cannot find a solution to this mode of dismissal throughout an entire series. So yeah, quite disappointing, really.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for pulling up the stats because yeah, we could say without the stats as well, but the stats really bring it to life. Kohli's average of 23, like you said, with that is skewed by that 100, and that 100 came when India was already 300 ahead. It was a beautiful day for batting. There was not much at stake, right? So comparatively to when the team really needed him, I think the only time he looked decent was in the first innings at Melbourne, and then the net run out happened, and then he got out, lost his concentration or whatever. But yeah, the fact that he was just getting out the same way, it kind of shows like he's not willing to make any technical changes or technique changes. He's also 36 now, so like it might be too late in his career for him to even have that motivation to make a change. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's not just this year, it's not this series as well for him. Like his in Test cricket for the past 5 years, I think his average is in the 20s, and his overall average has dropped from mid 50s to high 40s. If he continues this way, if one more series, it could drop even lower. So yeah, I mean, Kohli has been a disappointment in Test cricket for a while now, and Rohit, I don't think Rohit was ever a great Test player or a great Test captain. He was more of a they wanted the all format captain to be the same, so he got roped in, and then yeah, just since the New Zealand's, I think since the Bangladesh series, his average has been 10 or something. So uh yeah, not great for either of them. When Rohit batted, he started in the middle order, then he went to opening, nothing worked. So yeah, I mean, I think the form is definitely concerning. Also, the fact that we they are in a way now. This happens, I think, at the end of the career of any great player, where there are other players knocking on the door, might want to get a chance. But yeah, it's hard to find a way in if especially the way Indian cricket culture is, where they might not retire on their own. So I don't know, thoughts on if you think, let's take this, I have a question in two ways. Like, can either of them recover their form at this age, at this stage in their careers? And or do 2 years ago we were all calling for Rahane and Pujara to be dropped, and then they ultimately did get dropped. Is it time to move on from Rohit and Kohli in tests? I'm speaking specifically of tests.
I mean, I guess it's got to be put into context, and the context here is that you have the next World Test Championship final 2 years from now, so it will be in 2027. By then, Rohit would be almost
40.
40. Virat would be 39. Uh, so, are we really, are the selectors really looking at them to be the mainstays um, for that next World Test Championship final or not is the real question. Um, looking at the age of these players and their recent performances, logically you would think no. Plus the fact that there are other players in the team, right? I mean, let's not forget when Rohit came in to open the innings, Shubman Gill had to sit out. And Shubman Gill touted as, one of the next big potential players for India in this format as well. Um, also when Rohit came back to open the innings, KL Rahul had to drop one spot down, and that just completely destroyed his rhythm for the rest of the series. So, is it worth carrying Rohit and Virat for the next cycle, the final of which will be in 27, when both of them are, on the very close to 40. Rohit will be 40 and Kohli will be 39, as I said. So I think that maybe it's time to look at other options, because you really want a core group of players to play for a longer time together for the next cycle. There's no point having Kohli and Virat, and then in the middle of that cycle they just sort of walk away, and then you have to start all over again. So I would think that the logical decision is to probably look for other options. But it is Indian cricket culture, right? Where they don't take that decision that swiftly. It's almost left to the player, and if the player decides that no, they want to like carry on, then it's very difficult to look the other way.
Yeah. I'm just looking at the fixtures actually for the next World Test Championship cycle because I feel like, okay, maybe we'll do that later, but um, I know we have the story of England and then we have a home season, and I believe we're playing West Indies. Um, so I'd say I have a feeling they'll both go to the England tour and they won't play all the matches, and then they'll have that West Indies series at home as a farewell because we will beat West Indies. Uh, Hopefully not jinxing it, but I think that'll be like a farewell for both of them. It might. That's my feeling. I don't think either of them should play another test at this point, but it won't be that way as well. They will get some kind of farewell. So that's my feeling. But we'll see what happens. Moving on to something positive from the series, I think maybe the only positive was the form of Jasprit Bumrah, who got bold and bold and bold into ultimately, unfortunately, he got an injury in the last match, just couldn't carry on. So, I mean, it's unfortunate that he got no support. He had an average of 32 wickets in the series, like, and that was only 2 wickets in the last test, so there's 30 wickets actually in the first 4 tests. So, and I have a feeling, I actually do feel like if he had bowled in the second innings yesterday, we might have won because even with our mediocre bowling attack, we were still so good. So, whatever was on Bumrah, and then any thoughts on the lack of support?
Yeah, I mean, what a bowler this guy is. Like, he's equally good in T20s. He's equally good in ODIs. He's awesome in Test. I mean, this it's rare that you get such a complete all format bowler. We've seen bowlers like, Dale Steyn in the past, very good in Test matches, not very good with white ball. People like um, uh, I'm kind of thinking about the different great bowlers, but Mitchell Johnson, for instance, very good in test matches, not so good in white ball, and so on and so forth. But um, Bumrah is just like phenomenal. I mean, he can do it in all conditions, in Indian conditions, in seamer friendly conditions. He does it when the chips are down. If a wicket is needed, you call Bumrah. If you want to dry up the runs, you call Bumrah. If you want to bowl in the death in ODIs or T20s, you call Bumrah. So it's amazing. I mean, he's had a stellar year in general. 70 wickets this year, but this series he was even more exceptional with 32 wickets. It's a pity that he missed out on the best bowling track of the series, right? Because God knows what more damage he could have inflicted on the Australians. Um, but then again, it's a five-match series. It's obviously he can't do it alone. Cricket is a team game, and the result of this series actually proves that cricket is a team game. If it was up to individuals, India would have won that series based on Bumrah's brilliance. But the fact that he did not get support or enough support meant that India walked away without winning the series, and Australia, who had bowlers taking wickets at different stages, won that series. So you had Cummins, Boland, Stark, and Hazelwood until he got injured, really contributing immensely at different stages of the game. And then Australia, of course, took the series. Um, I think Siraj bowled his heart out. I think one thing with Siraj is that you can't you can't discount the amount of effort he puts in, right? He's always there trying his best. But I guess I was actually watching a show on ClickBuzz where Harsha Bhogle and Dinesh Khatri were commenting about how Siraj moved away from, being the hit the deck kind of bowler, which is more suitable to Australian conditions, to being a bowler that's trying to find more swing. Um, and in Australia, it doesn't swing as much, so it sort of worked against him. Um, and who knows, maybe that's one of the reasons why he didn't take as many wickets as he could have. He also leaked a lot of runs. Um, the third seamer was a problem as well, right? Harshit Rana did well in the first test match, but he couldn't back that up again. Akashdeep was like just wicketless. He just couldn't get the outside edge. And then Prasidh Krishna bowled well in Sydney, but maybe it was just the pitch that was so spicy that allowed him to walk away with good figures. We'll see how he develops in the next few series. But yeah, I just think that Australia's batting was not great. Bumrah exploited that. The others couldn't. India's batting was not great, but then they had a better bowling attack, and I think that really was the difference between the two teams at the end of the day.
Yeah, and they got to rotate their bowlers, right? So Cummins and Stark played all five, but whether through injury or not, and I feel like they might have rested people anyway. Um, but what a bowler Boland is, right? Just coming in like actually he was a bowler. Like, he got 21 wickets in three tests. So if he had played all five, he would have probably got the same as Bumrah or around the same. So I mean, yeah, we've said enough about Bumrah. There's nothing to say. I'm really concerned that he has got that injury. Hopefully, it's nothing too serious because there's at least a Champions Trophy coming up, so hopefully he can play that at least. But it is unfortunate. I don't recall like it was really exposed in the second innings yesterday where I don't know if you saw the match live, but I was watching it live. The first 4 overs was so disastrous. The line was all over the place. It was all on the leg side, all on the pads, and they gave away something like 40 runs in the first 4 overs. So the match was
Hmm.
kind of done there itself. So it's fine being a second or third bowler, but we don't have a replacement strike bowler, which is very concerning. I know Shami is injured, but Shami is also 34 now. There's even rumors that he might be older, but his body's not going to be the same. So who is next? Bumrah can't do it alone. In India, they'll get away with it. With the New Zealand series was an anomaly. They'll get away with the spinners, a couple of quick bowlers, but abroad, like in the next, they're going to England next. I don't know who's gonna step up. What if Bumrah gets injured? It's pretty concerning. The batsmen, we just going back to our previous point, the batsmen they'll find. There's tons of talent. That's more of an ego issue there. But the bowlers, there's probably a talent issue, which is actually concerning. Um, and they kept chopping and changing all the other bowlers, but Bumrah kept playing. And then yeah, he unfortunately got that injury in the last test. Siraj, I don't think is a strike bowler. I don't think he'll ever be the strike. He will always be a second bowler. So they need to find someone. And I can't think of names who could come in immediately, even to make like an impact. Like yeah, it's a bit bleak.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, it's a bit bleak. It's kind of unfortunate though because there was a time very recently in Indian cricket where they had this pool of fast bowlers, and all of them were really good. You had Bumrah, Shami, Ishan Sharma, who became very good towards the back end of his career, Umesh Yadav and Bhuvneshwar Kumar. And these guys were really good. They used to rotate them, play them in different conditions. But now it seems like there isn't that pool isn't as good anymore. So you've got Bumrah, of course, like you said, Siraj, okay, not that great, not in the same league. But even apart from those, and I'm counting Shami out here because, like you said, he's quite old. But even Akashdeep and Prasidh Krishna, okay, maybe they are the next in line, but they need to show more results really to be touted as serious bowlers in all conditions. So we'll have to wait and watch. But you're right, without Bumrah, that attack looks really lean. And yeah, definitely India won't win too many matches away from home if the attack continues to look like this.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, hopefully someone will come up and like because I was just looking at even I'm looking at the stats from last year from the Ranji Trophy. I'll be honest, I don't follow it too much, but the top wicket takers are all spinners. So like there's
Hmm.
no yeah, just don't see anyone coming up. Hopefully hopefully it's just they also don't have a local coach now. They had Bharat Arun earlier. They even had Paras Mamre, who was not great, but at least he was local. Now they have Morne Morkel. I don't know how familiar he is with the Indian setup, how long he's going to spend in India scouting bowlers. So yeah, we'll see uh what happens. Okay, and then I think our last topic now, and this is obviously assuming that Rohit Sharma does not continue as captain or does not continue as a player itself. But some thoughts on India's next test captain, even if it doesn't happen for the England series, in general, it will happen at some point. Uh, because in this series, we had three captains. Actually, at the end of the series, in the last session yesterday, Boom, Rohit was talking to Bumrah in the stands. So it was like the captain is talking to the stand-in captain while the old captain was actually captaining on the field in Virat Kohli. It was quite a hilarious set of circumstances. But yeah, we did have three captains ultimately in the series, which is not great. Um, so I don't know. Thoughts on India's next test captain? I feel there are a couple of candidates. There's Bumrah, of course. There's Rishabh Pant. There could be Shubman Gill. Those are the three names that come to mind. I don't think Ashwin would have been a great shout, to be honest, but he was anyway old and now he's this irrelevant because he's retired. So these are the three names I think that do come to mind. But your thoughts, and if any of these three, who of them, or if you have a totally left field choice as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think the way they need to look at this is to find a captain that is going to be like a long-term captain and also captain in all formats. So I think the first thing to look at is who is an all-format player for India, and I think it's pretty obvious. The three names that you took are the pretty obvious candidates. So you have Gill, who's 25, Rishabh Pant, that's 27, and Bumrah, who is 30. Now, the thing with Bumrah is that while the guy has shown that he's a pretty, good captain and he's got a good understanding of the game and so on, but he injury prone? Point one. If he plays all the matches, of course he will be injury prone because I mean, I'm not an expert on bowling actions, but from what I read and what I hear, everybody has said that his action is a bit, difficult to sustain over a long period of time, which is why India tend to rest him a lot. And if they rest him a lot from different games in different formats, then obviously it's difficult to nominate him as a long-term captain as well, right? Because you don't want him to play one series, then miss the next two series because they aren't as important, and then come back for the fourth series. It's sort of unfair to the other players and unfair to Bumrah as well. So that's probably the only thing that works against. The fact that he is so good is actually something that works against him in this case. Um, I do think that maybe Shubman Gill, probably, uh, I mean, it could be any one of Gill or Rishabh Pant. I mean, they're relatively the same age. Both of them captain their respective IPL teams, so they've got like captaincy experience. Shubman Gill, however, has not really cracked it in T20 as yet, although he is being touted as a three format player. So maybe now with Rohit Sharma having retired from T20, I guess the next logical opener is Shubman Gill. And Rishabh Pant already is in the T20 squad. He's in the Test and ODI teams, just like Shubman Gill. So I think it's a toss-up between Gill and Rishabh Pant. Um, I do feel that, however, between the two, Shubman Gill is probably better suited. And I say that because Rishabh Pant is a very different kind of player. And I feel that he won't be able to play those kind of innings if he is a captain. So for instance, the 61 of 33 balls that he played the other day, I guess captaincy brings with you a certain level of responsibility, which sometimes can prevent you from playing those kind of knocks. Because if he gets out playing those kind of innings, then the backlash that he gets is tremendous. We saw that in the previous Test match, right? And for a captain to get that kind of backlash each and every time is hard. Um, and so maybe that will work against him as a potential captain. So basically, does India want him to sacrifice his style of play, which he might have to do if he were to become captain? And so I think Shubman Gill is probably better suited to be the next Indian captain across format. But that's just my opinion. What about yours?
Yeah, I think so. I disagree on a couple of points, not on one point actually, which I don't think we need to have an all format captain necessarily because I don't see the we've seen how it's not worked with this current with Rohit being the captain on a format. So I think it, especially with the amount of cricket that we play, uh, there's times when we're playing a T20 series and the Test series at the same time. So completely different squads. So I don't think we always need to have an all format captain. And more than that, I think Sky is now going to be the captain of T20 till the next World Cup at least, which is next year. I think I'm not sure what point in the year it is, but it is in 26 in India. So uh, I think that spot is sealed down for the next year at least. And then yeah, if I think Rohit will step down as the ODI captain after the Champions Trophy. So yeah, maybe there we could have the same captain for Test and ODIs, but I think T20 is just such a different format. Maybe there's merit to having a T20 specialist in as a captain. So that's just my
But
point.
do
Mhm.
you think that when Surya retires eventually, after I don't know when it will be, but obviously he's already 34 or 35, so
He'll
won't
play
be
for
too
like
long,
4 years.
let's say. Maybe Shubman Gill or somebody. So if Shubman Gill is already the ODI or T20, ODI or and Test captain, then maybe he can be the natural
Yeah.
replacement.
I'm not saying you should not have an all format captain, but I don't think you should force it. So it's not a necessity to have the all
Right,
format captain. So like
right,
you can
right.
have it if it just does if it works, but you don't have to have it. So there's like the other options they can do. I feel like if they win the T20 World Cup next year, he might even continue. He's yes, but he's 34, but he only plays one format, so he could play till
Hmm.
38. Well, so
Hmm.
but yeah, that said, I don't think Bumrah is a good choice as captain as well because of the reasons you said. He's injury prone. He can't play every game. We've seen it already. So and yeah, I still stand by the fact that fast bowlers or bowlers in general are not the best captains. Uh, so Bumrah's out, and then between Pant and Gill, yeah, we Pant has been talked about as a captain for so long now. I think even when Rohit was being made captain, people are talking about Pant becoming the Test captain. And then obviously he had the injury and all of that. But yeah, I don't think Pant would work as well because yeah, you're right. It would curb his natural game. And yeah, the Test captain of India, I don't see him being responsible enough. So yeah, he's out. And then it comes down to Gill. So my view is also that it would probably be Shubman Gill. To be honest, his Test career has been underwhelming so far, but he also started very young, and we've seen players who can develop in their mid to late 20s. He's 25. actually a perfect time for him. Even with the captaincy, maybe that will give him more responsibility and like a guaranteed place in the side, more confidence. So that could we could see him finally fulfill his potential. So yeah, at least for the next cycle, I feel like they should have a make a brave call and have Gill as the captain. Uh, but who knows? It's I don't remember the last time after Dhoni that we've made a brave call as a captain. Like it's always been someone who's been groomed and then they've just become captain naturally. And we've also forgotten about actually we both forgot about KL Rahul because he's there. He's been in the side forever. He's captain in India also in a couple of tests. So he might actually be an option also. And now that we spoke about someone who's being groomed and a safer choice, they actually might just go for Rahul.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about KL Rahul, but I think uh, he's kind of fallen down that pecking order simply because of his lack of consistent performances. There was a time actually 3 4 years ago when he was putting in those consistent performances. He had a secure spot in the side, and he was probably ahead of the likes of Shubman Gill and Rishabh Pant in terms of captaincy candidates. But I think his stocks have sort of dropped a bit in the last few years. If he can't command a consistent spot in the lineup, then it's very difficult to see him, become captain. Um, but then again, if Rohit and Virat kind of step aside, that's when the spots in the lineup open up, right? So Shubman Gill comes straight in at three, KL Rahul goes to open the innings. They'll still have to find a suitable number four. But I mean, there's so much of talent. They'll probably do that. Dhruv Jurel looks good as a batsman, right? So
Sarfaraz.
who knows? I mean, there are plenty of options. So yeah, but I think just the situation of the situation of each one of those players as of today. If you just consider what it looks like as of today, I think Shubman Gill is probably the best suited. And it's unfortunate for KL Rahul because I like KL Rahul. I really think he's a very good batsman. He's got a lot of talent, but I think he averages like in the low 30s or something like that.
Yeah.
I find it amazing how somebody with that kind of talent and ability has not cemented a place in the Indian side after after 10 years. He debuted in like 2014, right? In the BGT when India toured Australia in 2014. He scored 100 on debut as well. Um, so he has all the tools. He scored runs. It's just that he's not done it consistently, which is why he doesn't find a place in the team as well. And I think that works against his captaincy ambitions.
Yeah. So agreed. So our view, we'll be calling Mr. Agarkar soon after this call, but is that Shubman Gill should be the next test captain. But we'll see what happens. Interesting times ahead. There are also 6 months, so we who knows what will happen. Then I'm sure there'll be tons of media drama in these 6 months before our next test.
I mean, if India wins the Champions Trophy, this is going to be forgotten, right?
Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
BGT debacle is going to be forgotten,
Same
and then
way.
there's IPL after that. So
Yeah,
everything's going to be forgotten after by the time the IPL ends.
yeah. The same way the T20 World Cup win has been forgotten now because of this
Yes.
disastrous home and away test season. So yeah. Anyway, that was a good recap and a good look back, look ahead also as well. So very disappointing series overall, especially the way it started. But yeah, hopefully better things ahead for the Indian team. I think we can wrap up here. So thank you everyone for listening. Happy New Year again.
Yeah, happy New Year again. Let's see.